Hey everybody, Chris Stegall here with MK Partners, and I'm joined once again by Jessie Penaloza. Jessie, thanks for hopping on today.
Hey Chris, how's it going?
Really well. And as you know, we are in our last week before the final release weekend of Summer 23. So we're going to continue our countdown and march through the release notes in our third installment of the release highlight series.
Yeah, you say final countdown. I can only think of that one European. I don't know if it's European band, but Europe. It's the final countdown.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, we're literally like here. So it's happening. Um, for those that have not caught up, we have a whole release highlights set of blogs and coverage, and pretty much all the Trailblazers are doing the same thing. So go check them out and check us out. We'll have some of the links in the comments below there in the description. But yeah, so last time I went ahead and ran through some of the highlights and some of the stuff that caught my attention. So we're kind of doing a switch here. We'll go ahead and have Chris kind of talk about some of the highlights that caught his attention, something that caught attention within the Trailblazers communities. So feel free, Chris, start us off with what was the one thing or several things that caught your attention.
Yeah. So kind of got a few today. The first we have a couple that are sort of a heads up. Admins will want to keep their eyes on this because this might affect your user experience. And then one that is just a flat out good thing, nice to have. Wish I'd had it sooner, honestly. But we'll start off with one of those, what to watch out for. That being that the news automated account fields and account logos are being retired. So these were sort of the automated features that would, append news about a specific account to that account's record page, or having the automated account fields or the logos populate automatically. Those are going away. We do have a little bit of time. They're not going to be, saying goodbye until winter 24 technically, but this is our heads up for admins. If you've got users that love that experience, that rely on that, you'll either want to do some expectation setting and let them know that it's going away, or you'll want to do some, customization and build that functionality in, so that from their perspective, it's, never changes.
Wow, is this something you think of they no longer need it, or maybe they're seeing that many of the orgs are no longer utilizing it? It feels a little bit, account logos, account fields. You feel like just the word account itself, you feel it's something like relevant and be like, that sounds important. So why would you want to get rid of it? So I, I'm just curious to know if you any thoughts on your way as to is it important, or maybe they're like, I feel like most of the time some of the stuff kind of gets removed because it's no longer being used as much.
Yeah. From asking around and from what we see in our clients, I do think they're still fairly widely used features. I think from like a user perspective, like let's say I'm on the sales team, the news is relevant to me. I want to know what's going on with that account that I'm trying to win the opportunity for. So if I'm, making my calls every week and jump into the account and I see that it says, the company that you're trying to sell to has just laid off 1,000 employees, that's a good indication for me that I'm going to just go ahead and,
Right.
point my efforts elsewhere. From a Mambo Merge doc gen perspective, having the logos generated automatically is great, because if
Right.
I'm whipping up a sales
Hmm.
presentation and I want to just push a button and have a sales pitch PowerPoint generated, having the logo in there right away is super helpful. And then I think also just from like a C-suite executive perspective, this is one of those features that has always been a nice to have in terms of, making Salesforce look more lived in, making it look less like a wall of data and more like a dynamic platform where it's, I'm the CEO, I'm looking at this opportunity, I'm planning our revenue pipeline projections for the next quarter. I want to drill into this and see how likely I think it is to close. I click into the account, I see the logo there, I see their news. It just feels good. So I don't think this is a function of the feature not being used. What I kind of suspect is happening is that they're going to go about doing it a different way.
So
Yeah,
they're continuing probably going to introduce a new method of covering some of this stuff. So they have
that's
to
my
first
hope.
get rid of what's already there and kind of introduce. So maybe winter 24, right? That would be our next coverage,
Yeah,
which is literally not that far away. It's funny, right? Because we're barely starting 20. We're wrapping up 23 here as all the deployments go live and everybody starts kind of pushing things along. But within a couple of months, we'll be right back and do this once again.
yeah, yeah. So like the bells that were going off in my head were suggesting that like, oh, if we're automating fields and filling in data based on information grabbed from the web, that does feel like a good fit for like an Einstein GPT or an Einstein
Oh,
tool. And so I would hope that this is maybe something that's on the roadmap and Salesforce says, okay, we're gonna try to drive all of our inbuilt automations through the Einstein platform, but we know to make that change, we're going to need to pull the existing functionality offline. So maybe I don't know how the timings are going to work out, but I would hope that Salesforce isn't just abandoning this feature, but instead is,
gotcha.
And the worst case scenario, they do abandon it. And then that opens it up for partners like us to fill the demand by building apps or configurations and customizations in our client orgs to recreate the functionality. So
Okay. All right. So what do you got for us next here, Chris? That actually sounded very interesting, and would love to hear what other people have to say in the comments below, or shoot us an email or let us know. We'll have all that information in that description.
yeah. And definitely like now is the time to poll your users and find out how important that is. Or at least, the last thing you want is that change to go through in October. And then you get an angry call from the CEO saying, what happened to those logos? What happened to the news section? I read that every day. And then you're scrambling.
Scrambling, trying to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah. Next up is a feature that in my head almost feels like it's been there forever, should have been there forever. And that's the ability to clone Lightning apps. Now, we actually saw this go into beta on the previous release, but now it is going to be going wide. And so, I don't need to read this to you, but it's the ability to, actually, I can show you. So I'm inside the app manager in Lightning, and here was the beta from winter 23 where I could enable it. And once it is enabled, we should be able to clone these apps. I'm going to go ahead and refresh just to make sure that that updates. It is showing me that it's enabled. And so let's say I want to take this app that I have here. Now I can go ahead and click clone. And that's going to give me the ability to clone the app, and obviously make some slight tweaks to the settings. But this is super useful if you have an app that was built maybe for a specific team, and now you have a second team and you want them to have the same app, but siloed to their division. Instead of putting that back on your admin's plate and saying, hey, try to rebuild this from scratch, just going side by side back and forth. Now I can clone it. I can do it myself. It's also one of those things that's going to be a big time saver for admins, but also a potential money saver if you're somebody that utilizes a Salesforce partner like us to do a lot of your administrative work. And then you have an internal admin who's more focused on resetting passwords, getting new users added to the platform, user management as opposed to like org management. It's a money saver because instead of paying an MK Partners, an Accenture, a Deloitte to build 4 different apps, one for each of those relevant teams, you can pay for one app, and then your admin has the ability to clone that, make the slight tweaks to permissions or whatever you need. So that's potentially a huge time savings and therefore a budget savings. So something I'm really excited about, and I know that our admins are as well because they like saving our clients time as well.
Could another use case be actually if you wanted to kind of make adjustments to your app, but you didn't want to impact the current process, you can literally clone it, make those adjustments, test them out in a separate user, And then from there, once everything looks well, you wouldn't be impacting the current workflows. You just go ahead and test it out, and from there, if it looks good, then you can go ahead and replicate that on the main one, I guess. I feel
Yeah.
like for apps in that my perspective there, there's no way to kind of be doing additional modifications while it's live and running for users that are actually using it at that time. So with this clone option, I just thought of a use case that you can actually clone it, make those adjustments or tweak it, and then from there, if it works well, then apply them and keep the primary version of the app fully operational, and kind of
Yeah.
reduce downtime, and also even save, like you were talking about, right? Like if your admin feels comfortable, or you have a developer that kind of just give me the infrastructure or the backbone of the app, and I can kind of see if I can figure it out. I can save some money for them as well. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the consultants will not be a resourceful, but I was like I said, if there's minor tweaks that you can do yourself, I'm pretty sure some people will be confident to kind of want to be able to tinker around with and kind of improve their skills and better understand how the app works as a whole.
Yeah. That's a super good point. Um, yeah. Instead of trying to make those adjustments in production, like if you're
Hmm.
going from V1 of an app to V2, clone it, make all your tweaks, do your UAT, have a few users migrate over to see if anything breaks, and then make sure it's fully tested and ready to go before you send everybody over to the new
Right.
version of the app. So yeah, that's a great use case for it, and it really alleviates. If I was trying to, okay, well, we got a new business unit, I need to expand the functionality of this app.
Hmm.
I wouldn't want to do that, like you said, on the one that's active and risk breaking
Yes.
anything. And the current method would have been, manually recreating it side by side. Um, and that's maybe not 100% true, because I know that SFAs, the admins out there and the developers are resourceful. And there are currently some tips and tricks about how to save time when you're reproducing an app that already exists.
Hmm.
But the clone button makes it so easy. Having it appear in that drop down instead of having to do any, you know, sort of development or any sort of schematic work on the side, even just like not having to check all of those buttons again is going to be like a huge time saver. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, and it feels like you just said from the beginning when you first introduced this highlight that it's something that you think should be there by default. You were like, why can't you just like duplicate it? It's like, I guess, like I said, I don't know the resources on the back end, on the Salesforce platform, what exactly needs to be happening, if you have to be duplicating, custom fields or whatever elements you're adding to your app, right?
Yeah.
Does it consume more resources? Is it something that was not possible or cannot be done before? So maybe the feature was already there, but they just hit the switch and said, okay, let's just turn this on now. We can let people start using it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. I know I'm not the first person to ever go to this page and be like, how come there's not a checkbox in the clone button? They're like, there's got to be a copy button here somewhere. Where is it? And now there is. So.
Awesome. What's up next?
All right. Last one is a little bit cryptic, a little bit spooky potentially. This is a release note we've seen in the past. Keep working with tab focused dialogues. And it was going to be I think console navigation specific user help, so that dialogues could pop up to offer, advice on what to do on the screen, et cetera, for your users. But we're seeing it in these release notes again with this little release update appended to the end. And the only note is the release update has been postponed indefinitely and not enforced in its present form. Don't enable it, which is a little bit scary. There's
Okay.
there's no indication of what will happen if you do enable it. But anytime Salesforce says, don't flip this switch, I'm going to leave that button alone. And I also just want to make sure that all of the admins out there also have that information, so you don't see something that says, oh, tab focused dialogues, let me flip a switch, let me put some hours into that, and then potentially have something go a little bit haywire in your org, right?
Oh my. Yeah, this I guess there's something between the lines or something that's not being shared yet, and maybe shared later on once they apply a patch or whatever it is that they don't want to happen, or open up vulnerability or any type of or it could be something very minimal, but obviously they don't want to have an impact of some sort.
Yeah.
So it could be something very minor, or it can actually be something really, something that could actually impact your org in such a way that Salesforce does not want that to happen to your org. So it's like I said, yeah, it's one of those like, okay, so what's really going on?
Yeah. Yeah. My suspicion and hope would be that it's simply some sort of like user experience issue
Hmm.
where they couldn't get it to work consistently. And there's nothing more frustrating than when you put a bunch of time in and do a bunch of work and something doesn't save or something doesn't happen the way that you expected it to after you put in all that effort. And so I think they're probably just working out the hiccups and making sure that dialogues that you add to a specific tab do trigger on those tabs, or maybe they're making some tweaks to the console navigation options, and that's going to have an effect on this. So they're like, okay, we'll park these dialogues until we get the console navigation dialed in, because I think there were actually some release notes about console nav too. So maybe we'll take a look at that in our
Oh,
final countdown look. But for
it's
now,
the
I would,
final
yeah,
countdown. Sorry, you just said it
no,
again.
it's okay.
I'm
I know
just
I
thinking
keep
about
saying
like,
it.
I love that song. I'm just, it's
Yeah,
just.
I'm gonna say it until we get a cease and desist from. Man, I don't even remember which band it is. I do think they're the European. It might be like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Oh, that's actually a good one too. That's some great music. You're getting all the hits there.
It is by it's by the band called Europe. That's why you were saying Europe. I
Yes,
was like, they're definitely
yes.
from Europe, but no, the
Yeah.
band is
No,
called
the
Europe.
name of the band, correct. Yeah, I just didn't know if they were from actually Europe, but I did because I figure, you listen to music and you're like, what's the name of the band? Or like, what's the name of the band members? And I just memorized it like, because it's Europe. Okay, it's a country.
Yeah,
Okay, Europe. But I didn't know whether or not they're actually from Europe.
yeah.
But yeah, it's good to know that.
Yeah, my introduction to that song was as a kid. The Chicago Bulls always used that
Oh,
as like
yes, you're
their run out
right.
music when they like
That's
introduced Michael Jordan and
There
stuff.
you go. Yes, that's probably what I remember. I used to watch all those basketball games.
Yeah, and
Enjoyed
so
watching
in
them.
my head I was like, I don't know what band it is, but it's the Bulls.
Yes, there you go. That's probably where I remember it from. So when I listen to them, like, hey, I've heard this before. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Well, so see, I learned something new today too. Europe is the name of the band.
yeah,
I feel like that'll come up on Jeopardy at some point. They'll probably
right.
have
Yeah,
a like geographic locations that are also band names.
that I bet. That's
Cool.
the way we do things here. It's just go roll with it.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what I had found in the release notes. Two things for admins to keep their eyes on. Tab focus dialogues is a switch you don't want to touch. The automated account fields, logos, and news features are being retired. We're hoping to hear a replacement. And then a real-time saver, the ability to clone Lightning apps. As always,
Woohoo.
if you want to get a little more in depth on these, do check out the blog posts. We have the one on Lightning apps, the one on the news and account fields. And as always, to stay up to date, just be sure to subscribe to Creme de la CRM over on medium.com. That's where all of our blog posts live, release highlights and otherwise. And that way you're always up to date, always up to speed, and always in the know.
Yep.
All right. Thanks again, Jesse, for joining today. Thanks for sort of leading the discussion on that there.
Definitely. No, of course. And if there's any additional topics or highlights that you'd like us to cover, or something that you thought was interesting, you'd like other people to know, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Email us. We'll have all that contact information there. Like Chris said, this is our second round. We'll probably have one more before the release highlights. The release readiness last week completes, which I believe is next week, so by the 9th. But yeah, feel free to check it out and let us know. But with that, Chris, thank you very much for giving us your rundown. We'll have a whole bunch more to cover. And as mentioned, if there's anything else you'd like to cover, let us know. With that being
Yep.
said, we appreciate it. And you guys have a great day.
Yep. Thanks for
Bye.
watching. Bye.